Denmark is considered Europe's strictest country on immigration. Despite its polite and progressive nature, the Nordic country is becoming the face of anti-migration. When did this unfriendliness start? And what's the story behind Denmark's rigid immigration restrictions? Watch till the end to know the full narrative of this unwelcoming shift and why Denmark will continue to say no to immigration. Denmark has a strong sense of national identity. Their folkbildung allows for a sense of nationalism and cohesion. Denmark's success and renown in terms of livability, happiness index, and rich cultural capital can even be attributed to their strong sense of peoplehood and nationalism. Another factor that's enabled Denmark to thrive and band together is the homogeneity of their population. Denmark values its high level of uniformity, which is presumably why it's challenging for Danish society to integrate immigrants. The country started experiencing more emigration than immigration. More Danish people moved away, and more immigrants from other Nordic or Western countries entered the scene. Former guest workers or foreign workers and more refugees, along with their families, challenged the status quo. As a country attributing its success to their powerful sense of civic solidarity, this shift represents a problem. Danish politics and Danish society in general seem to be having trouble adjusting to a multi-ethnic population. For example, the Mohammed cartoon uproar of 2005 represented differences in culture and religion caused Denmark to face an international controversy that is tagged the country's biggest crisis since the Second World War. As early as 1973, there were already government initiatives to stop labour immigration, but until the mid-1990s, Denmark welcomed refugees with open arms, especially those from former communist regimes. However, as more and more refugees came in from third world countries, there was a shift in perception and, eventually, policy. Repatriation started to become a core component of temporary residence programs. Since 2001, refugees can no longer easily apply for asylum. Since 1990, the number of immigrants and their family dependents has continued to grow. However, it has already become very difficult for immigrants to gain residence in Denmark. As early as 1986, the government already tightened the Aliens Act, which made it more difficult to obtain citizenship and also made it easier to deport immigrants engaging in fraudulent or criminal activities. Even the law for family regulation was tightened in 1992, which removed the automatic right to reunification and imposed the breadwinner condition on resident spouses. From the mid-1980s onward, due to the increase in immigration, high unemployment rates tagged along, and this became a controversial public issue. This heavily politicised debate set off the establishment of the DPP, or Danish People's Party, mobilising electoral support on Denmark's immigration issues above anything else. The DPP, along with the Danish media, kept this campaign and debate alive for years. Anti-immigration then became the centre of political attention, although efforts have been made to make the integration more seamless. The Integration Act of 1999 came to life, which was the first of its kind in the Western world. This improved the coordination and management of the integration process. The integration period requires all immigrants over 18 years of age to learn the language, history, culture, and society of Denmark. They are to participate in everyday life and acquire competencies and skills to successfully enter the labour market. The core of this initiative is to uphold the ground rule. Minorities must learn how to come to terms with Denmark, not vice versa. Years later, the LC government introduced a legislative package on immigration, which made the requirements and access to permanent residence tougher, and was also meant to test the loyalty of newcomers to Danish values. In general, newcomers are seen as a financial burden on Denmark's welfare system. Refugees have been branded as refugees of convenience or welfare scroungers who unfairly take advantage of the system that is not made for them. Muslims in particular have been discriminated against. Islamophobic views emerged, especially after the 9/11 attacks, and Denmark's LC coalition enforced stricter controls and tougher policies, putting an end to lenient immigration practices and policies. Islamophobia still continues to be widespread not only in Denmark but other European countries as well. In 2023, far-right politician Rasmus Paludan burned copies of the Quran in front of a Denmark mosque, saying, "This mosque has no place in Denmark." Refugees and immigrants hope that Denmark becomes a tolerant and inclusive society. However, equality is interpreted rather differently in Denmark. They associate equality with cultural similarity and political sameness, while immigrants from non-Western places are frowned upon. Immigrants from Europe and Western countries are treated more kindly. For example, the Danish government suspended their restrictive asylum rules for Ukrainian refugees and allowed them to study, work, and access social benefits immediately after arrival. However, some Syrians have lived in tents for years and were never allowed to study in Danish schools. Denmark revoked Syrians' residence permits, affecting hundreds of refugees being indefinitely held in deportation centres. In Denmark, there are first-class and second-class refugees, and we never know if that will ever change. Other forms of inequality in the policies have also emerged. For example, the Integration Act included a monthly integration allowance that's far lower than the equivalent welfare benefits Danes receive in similar circumstances. The UNHCR itself singled that out as a negative discrimination of foreigners and a clear violation of the International Refugee Conventions. Although the section was ultimately withdrawn, when the LC government took office, this arrangement was then reintroduced in the guise of introductory allowance or start allowance receivable up to 7 years. But this time, it also applied to Danish citizens to motivate them to actively look for employment. You may have heard of Lazy Robert, who became world famous in Denmark. Robbery Nielsen is a long-term unemployed citizen. He publicly described himself as lazy, stating that he prefers receiving welfare benefits rather than working at McDonald's or accepting other low-skilled jobs that he felt from experience insulted him as both a citizen and a human being. To that end, he was quickly labelled Lazy Robert, sparking a huge political debate about the legitimacy of welfare recipients. Has the welfare system become too rich and generous that it has undermined the country's work ethic? Well, that's another huge topic, and we'll save that for another video. And we never know when Denmark will learn to pamper their immigrants too. So why is Denmark so tough on immigrants? The main objective, it seems, has been to reduce the country's attractiveness for asylum seekers and to limit the pull factor for so-called welfare scroungers. As it appears, the initiatives have been more or less successful, as the number of asylum seekers have remained low over the years. Denmark remains to be the only Nordic country with a general residence requirement of 9 years and a conduct requirement that excludes aliens from naturalization on a permanent basis. To obtain a Danish passport, immigrants have to live in Denmark for 9 consecutive years, engage in full-time work, establish proper housing conditions, keep a clean criminal record, attain fluency in Danish, and ensure economic self-sufficiency, among many other requirements. Now, although there have been improvements over the years, such as how Denmark now allows for dual citizenship, unlike other pluralistic societies, Denmark continues to have rather unfriendly multicultural policies. These strict barriers have to do with the fact that Denmark's naturalization and citizenship policies are not adopted by law, but agreed upon by political parties that represent the majority in parliament. Denmark is, without a doubt, a successful model of egalitarianism for the rest of the world. It has developed a universalistic welfare state with high levels of public provisions from healthcare to education to unemployment benefits and old age pensions. These benefits are accessible to all residents and citizens in the country. For immigrants to enjoy the same benefits and see a future for themselves in Denmark, they have to do everything in their power to earn their living, contribute to the Danish economy, and make themselves independent of public welfare. It's impossible to know when or if Denmark will loosen its immigration policies. After all, restrictive migration policies remain to be the baseline for Danish national politics. Eliminating discrimination also appears to be mission impossible. As for the future of immigration in Denmark, it's bound to change, especially with more labour gaps and the constant drop in the nationwide birth rate. For the country to successfully cope with the ageing population and establish an adequate supply of skilled workers, the country definitely needs to be more flexible and far-sighted. So there you have it. Thanks for watching this video on this set of pervasive Danish predicaments. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to drop a comment and share your thoughts about what you think is the right way forward and how this situation might evolve in the coming months and years. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. We analyse the latest trending economic news, so keep a close watch, and until next time, take care folks.